Welcome to my channel Official History of Coins, and today we're taking a closer look at a coin that many people would probably ignore without even thinking twice. Imagine reaching into an old coffee can full of loose change or opening a dusty drawer that hasn't been touched in years and finding a dark. Let's get started. Scratched, heavily worn old nickel sitting at the bottom. At first glance it looks ordinary, damaged, maybe even dirty enough to toss aside with common pocket change. But that little coin could actually be a 1916 Buffalo nickel, one of the most famous 5-cent coins ever made in the United States. And even when these coins look rough, faded, and worn down by decades of use, they can still carry real value that surprises collectors all over the country. The 1916 Buffalo nickel was created during a time when the United States wanted its coins to feel more connected to American history and culture. Before this design appeared, older Liberty nickels had been circulating for many years, but the country wanted something bold and uniquely American. That's when sculptor James Earl Fraser designed the Buffalo nickel, also known as the Indian head nickel. The front of the coin featured the powerful profile of a Native American figure, while the back displayed an American buffalo standing proudly on a mound. The design instantly became one of the most recognizable coin designs in American history. The 1916 version is especially interesting because it comes from the early years of production, which always attracts collectors who love historic coins with old American character. One thing that makes this coin so fascinating is that it rarely looks perfect anymore. Most 1916 Buffalo nickels spent decades moving from hand to hand through stores, banks, farms, train stations, restaurants, and family pockets. Because of that, many surviving examples have faded dates, scratches, discoloration, and worn surfaces. Some coins are so smooth that parts of the buffalo almost disappear. But collectors know something important that beginners often miss. Ugly does not mean worthless. In fact, even a heavily circulated 1916 Buffalo nickel can still attract serious interest. A worn example with a visible date might sell for around $850, while a cleaner and more detailed piece could reach $1,300 without much difficulty. That's why experienced collectors never judge these coins too quickly based only on appearance. If you happen to own one of these nickels, the first thing to check is the date on the front. The year 1916 should appear near the shoulder area of the Native American portrait. Since Buffalo nickels wore down easily, dates are often faint, so good lighting can help reveal hidden details. Next, look at the buffalo on the back. The more visible the horn, tail, and fur details remain, the stronger the value usually becomes. Also pay attention to the mint mark, which may appear below the words 5 cents on the reverse side. Some 1916 Buffalo nickels were made in Philadelphia with no mint mark, while others came from Denver or San Francisco. Collectors often study these small details carefully because tiny differences can push prices much higher than expected. Another reason people get excited about the 1916 Buffalo nickel is because the market for old American coins keeps growing year after year. Collectors love coins that tell a story, and this nickel carries the feeling of old America in a way modern coins rarely do. Think about it for a moment. This coin existed during the era before television became common, before modern highways stretched across the country, and during a time when horses and early automobiles still shared the roads. Every scratch on the surface may represent decades of real history. Because of that connection to the past, collectors are willing to pay strong prices even for coins that look rough. A better preserved 1916 Buffalo nickel with stronger detail can easily sell for $2,100, and some especially attractive examples have reached around $3,400 at auctions and private sales. One mistake many people make is trying to clean these coins. The moment someone sees dark tunning or dirt on an old Buffalo nickel, the temptation is to polish it until it shines. But cleaning can actually destroy collector value very quickly. Professional collectors prefer original surfaces, even if the coin looks old and worn. Harsh cleaning leaves unnatural scratches and removes the historic texture that proves the coin survived naturally over many decades. So if you ever find a 1916 Buffalo nickel, resist the urge to scrub it or dip it in chemicals. Even if the coin appears dirty, leaving it untouched is usually the safest choice because original condition matters more than artificial shine. What surprises many viewers is how dramatically values can rise depending on condition and rarity. While average circulated examples can already bring hundreds or even thousands of dollars, higher-grade coins become far more valuable. Coins with clearer facial details, stronger lettering, and visible buffalo features are always in greater demand. Some collectors spend years searching for early buffalo nickels with attractive surfaces and strong eye appeal. Exceptional examples of the 1916 Buffalo nickel have been known to push toward $4,700 or even higher when condition, rarity, and collector demand all come together perfectly. That's why so many people carefully check old jars, inherited collections, flea market boxes, and forgotten drawers hopping to uncover one of these historic nickels hiding in plain sight. At the end of the day, the 1916 Buffalo nickel is a reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance. A coin that looks worn out, faded, scratched, and forgot can still hold real importance in real money in the collector world. The history, the design, the age, and the connection to early American culture all make this coin special to collectors everywhere. So the next time you come across an old buffalo nickel, don't ignore it just because it looks rough. Take a closer look at the date, study the details carefully, and remember that even an ugly old 5-cent coin can carry surprising value after more than a century of history. Second coin, 1924 buffalo nickel, and honestly your first reaction is probably disappointment. The surface is a dull, muddy gray-brown, worn so smooth in places that the original luster has completely vanished. Look at the cheek of the Native American profile, it's almost flat, with only a ghost of the feather and braid details remaining. The reverse is even worse. The buffalo's hip is worn into a featureless hump, and the word 5 has taken a hit from what looks like a deep gouge near the rim. Most people see this kind of damage and worn, dirty condition and immediately assume the coin is junk, maybe worth its face value of 5 cents if they're generous. But that snap judgment is exactly why so many collectors miss out. You see a beat-up old nickel. An experienced eye sees a coin that still carries serious demand hidden beneath all that grime and scarring. Here, why the average person gets it wrong. We're trained to think that old coins have to look shiny or uncirculated to be worth anything, but the Buffalo Nickel series doesn't work that way. These coins were workhorses handed out in subway tolls, lunch counters, and vending machines across 1920s America. By 1924, the design had been in circulation for over a decade, and the soft details on the buffalo's horn and the Indian's hair were already prone to wearing down fast. So when you find a specimen like this with its scratched field and dull patina, your brain says, pocket change. What you don't realize is that the very wear pattern you're looking at, especially if the date remains fully readable and the mint mark is still visible on the reverse below 5 cents, tells a specific story that collectors pay attention to. It's not about beauty, it's about authenticity and surviving history. To understand why this rough 1924 Buffalo Nickel still matters, you have to go back to the coin's origins. Designed by James Earl Fraser, the Buffalo Nickel replaced the Liberty Head design in 1913 as part of America's push for a more distinctly national coinage. The Native American profile was meant to honor indigenous peoples, while the American bison on the reverse, modeled after a real bison named Black Diamond at the Central Park Zoo, celebrated the vanishing frontier. By 1924, America was in the middle of the Roaring Twenties, and these nickels were being struck by the millions at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. The 1924 issue specifically came at a time when the mint was still tweaking the dies to reduce wear, but the damage was already done. Most examples lost their detail within a few years of heavy use. That's why a 1924 nickel that has survived a century of pockets, cash registers, and junk drawers is actually a minor miracle, even in this beaten state. Now here, where collector demand enters the picture. Buffalo nickels have a fiercely loyal following, and the 1924 date sits right in the middle of a series that includes several legendary rarities like the 1918 7D overdate and the 1926 S. While 1924 isn't a key date, it's what dealers call a conditional rarity, meaning that nice examples are genuinely hard to find because so many were circulated into oblivion. Collectors building complete Buffalo nickel sets need a 1924, and they're willing to pay for any example that shows clear details on the horn, the hair, and the date. That scarcity drives value upward even for coins that look rough. In fact, the very damage you see, the scratches, the rim dings, the uneven tunning, can actually help authenticate the coin because counterfeit Buffalo nickels often look too perfect or have unnatural wear patterns. So how do you identify a 1924 Buffalo nickel worth looking at twice? First, flip it to the reverse. Right below the buffalo's tail, you'll see the words 5 cents. If there's a small letter D or S directly underneath that, you have a Denver or San Francisco mint coin, which are generally scarcer than the Philadelphia issue with no mint mark. Second, check the date on the obverse. It's located on the Native American's shoulder, and on a worn coin, the last digit 4 is often the first to fade. If you can still read 1924 clearly without squinting, that's a huge plus. Third, look at the buffalo's horn. On a full horn strike, it's a distinct curve. On your worn piece, you might only see a raised line. Even that faint line adds value compared to a completely smooth horn. And don't ignore the rim. A full, undamaged rim with no flattening from excessive wear pushes the coin into a higher tier for collectors. Condition absolutely matters, but here's the part that surprises most people. Even heavily circulated 1924 Buffalo nickels can still command serious money. You don't need a mint state gem to see a return. A coin graded good 4 with a readable date and a visible buffalo outline might trade hands at around $920 in today's market. If the wear is lighter, say fine 12 where the horn is still a distinct bump and the hair shows some detail, you're looking at $1,650. Move up to very fine 20 with a partial horn and clear feathers, and that same 1924 nickel jumps to $2,750. An extremely fine 40 example showing most of the horn and full hairlines can hit $3,850. And if you somehow find a mint state example with original luster and no major marks, which is extremely rare for this date, prices start at $4,900 and climb fast from there, especially for the 1924D or 1924S varieties. These aren't fantasy numbers, these are real dealer and auction results from the past couple of years. Let me reinforce this because it's that important. Your worn, dull, damaged-looking 1924 Buffalo nickel is not worthless. In fact, it's the exact opposite of pocket change. Collectors actively seek out lower-grade examples because they're affordable entry points into the series, and because high-grade ones are locked away in collections. That 920 good 4 example I just mentioned, that's a coin with significant wear, probably looking a lot like the one you're holding right now. The key is that the date and mint mark must be fully readable and the coin must not have been cleaned. Which brings me to the one thing you absolutely must avoid. Do not clean this coin. I'm going to say it again, do not clean it. No soap, no baking soda paste, no vinegar, no rubbing with a cloth. Any abrasive or chemical will leave microscopic scratches or alter the natural patina that collectors use to judge originality. A cleaned buffalo nickel loses half its value instantly, turning that potential $920 into maybe $50 if you're lucky. The dull, dark surface you see is actually a protective layer of oxidation that has taken a century to form. Once it's gone, the coin looks unnatural and suspicious. So put the nickel in a cardboard flip or a plastic sleeve, don't touch the surfaces with your bare fingers, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC. And that's the simple truth. A 1924 Buffalo nickel might look like it's been through a war, but that battle damage is exactly why it has value today. Go check your old change jar, you might be surprised what's hiding in there.